is here.
God
is my provider.
God is here.
God is my healer.
God is just in everything that he does.
God is sovereign. God is my joy.
God is so faithful.
God is good.
God is constant.
God is a finisher.
God is free. God is steadfast love. God is better.
God is hope.
There's that pregnant pause that I'm supposed to incorporate today for you. Have you ever thought you were in charge? So I am a mom. I've been a teacher, a coach, a team leader, and as Cub said, I now get to be the director of our Awake students, and it sounds like I get to be in charge a lot. And so let's just take the first one, that I am a mom, and let's run with this idea that I'm in charge. I have a 6-year-old, a 4-year-old, and an almost 2-year-old. And my daughter, she's a ball. She's the almost toddler, and she is like killing it on stereotypical toddler. She has colored on more walls in my house. Last week, I put all the diapers back in the diaper caddy, and I was like, yes, this is awesome. And then you'd hear within 30 seconds, you're like, thanks, dear, you're awesome. And as toddlers do, her favorite word right now is no. Like, it's high-pitched, it's adorable, and you try not to laugh every time she uses it. And so you're like, do you want to go take a nap? No. Do you want to pick this up? No. And so we have instituted, as all parents do, a lovely system of fruit snacks, marshmallows, and M&Ms in our house. And so one morning when I was running late, as I am, my daughter looked at me, and I was like, okay, we're going to go outside. And she just looked. She doesn't even say no. She's like, yes, like, and she sprints off in the other direction. And so we've gotten, I think, 2 of my kids in my car. And so I go inside, I grab a handful of M&Ms. And I'm like, Ada, come here, Ada. And I hand her an M&M. Oh, good girl, Ada. And I take 3 steps back. Ada, right here. Hand her an M&M. Like, my house and my garage is not connected whole time. I'm like, yay, Ada, we made it. Good girl. And I'm in this process, like, do I have a 3rd kid or a 2nd pet? Not quite sure where she's at. And so you take her, combined with my 6-year-old, where everything must be fair, my 4-year-old, where God bless him, lives in his own world, and there's a lot of cases where, like, I'm not actually in charge. More recently than I would probably like to admit, I threw a solid 32-year-old tantrum in the middle of my kitchen. I was like, why won't you listen? You know, I was really glad that my husband, he was at work at that time. It was just my kids and my dog, you know, feeling this loveliness. And so obviously, I wasn't in charge of my own emotions at that point. As parents, we're really not in charge of anything, our clothes, what we eat, where we wear, how we sleep, all of that. And so you're like, okay, well, if I'm not in charge at home, that's fine, I concede. I'm gonna be in charge at work. I make a really good to-do list. I can send an email. I can make a phone call. I can be in a meeting. I can lead a meeting. Like, I can be in charge of, like, what's in my control. Until every deadline falls on the same week. Or your entire staff changes in a month. Or your coworker, like, drops the ball, and instead of me throwing a tantrum in the office, it's not really what you're supposed to do. But I can feel like my heart beats faster, I'm getting sweaty, I'm starting to lose sleep at night, and once again, I'm like, oh, okay, maybe you're not really in charge here either. And yet every day, I kid you not, every day, I woke up this morning the same way. I was like, today's the day. I'm gonna have my life together today. Today's the day where I'm gonna get my to-do list done. My kids are gonna listen to me the 2nd time. Like, it's gonna be great. And then your kid gets sick. Car breaks down, and you're late, and your stupid shirt gets caught on the stupid door handle. Not in control, not in charge, and this is the reality I have to face time and time again. And so the word I've chosen for God is that God is sovereign. And sovereign it's a churchy word, it's a fancy word, it's a word you may have heard a long time ago in a history class, but what it means is that you have supreme and absolute power, control, and authority. And I have to use this word with myself because it is so uncommon, it is so jarring to help me say, like, Nancy, you're not in charge, you're not in control. And so this concept of God being sovereign does come from the Bible. This guy named King David uses it so well. And so I found this at the end of 1 Chronicles when King David has aligned everything to build a temple and is also about to instate his son as king. And so he's gathered all the people together, and this is how he starts his assembly, his prayer. So in 1 Chronicles 29, we read, "Yours, O Lord, is the greatness, and the power, and the glory, and the victory, and the majesty. For all that is in the heavens and in the earth is yours. Yours is the kingdom, O Lord, and you are exalted as head above all. Both riches and honor come from you, and you rule over all. In your hand are power and might, and in your hand it is to make great and to give strength to all." So being sovereign is having all of the greatness and the power and the glory and the victory and the majesty. And so how often does my inner turmoil start to exist because I'm seeking those things? I want to be great. I want to be obeyed the first time. I want to have credit for the victory. I want the significance, right? I'm wanting all these things when that's not what I was called to do. I was not made to be sovereign. I have zero experience in being sovereign. And so it fascinated me that reading the rest of 1 Chronicles, like King David was king. He knew how to be sovereign. He was sovereign over his entire nation of Israel. He was the commander of all of his military. He set up his mighty men. He decided when we're going to go to battle, who we're going to battle against, and how. He set up everything for the temple. I love this part. He's like, "Hey, king over here, I need all your trees." And they're like, "Okay, here's all of our trees." And you're like, "Okay." He gathered all of the gold. He set up the gatekeepers, the singers, the priests, and even everybody that cleaned parts of the temple. He had complete power and control over all of his people and over all of his possessions. And yet, I just love how he goes on with this prayer. And so we're going to pick back up in 1 Chronicles because he just does it so great. He says, "But who am I, and what is my people, that we should be thus able to offer willingly? For all things come from you, and of your own we have given you." So he gives all of his riches, his glory, his honor, his victory, all of his possessions back to God. David, time and time again, committed to humility. He remembered himself as a servant and as a shepherd boy. He knew that everything he owned, it all again came from God. And so everything then that I think I have to offer, my job, my family, my money, my time, it all has always been and always will be God's. I haven't always existed. God has, and God created everything. And I loved this from a book that I read recently, kind of just setting me up, is that if God authored everything, he has authority over everything. And I love that wordplay. So because God authored me, he has authority over me. He gets to permit what can and can't happen. And so who am I to try and take that from God? Because God has all the glory, the power, the greatness, the majesty, the victory. And in his sovereignty, he gets to rule with love and kindness and faithfulness. He never breaks a promise. He never makes a mistake. He doesn't just react to the world like we react to chaos and try to take control of the situation. Everything he has put in place because he's always aware and moving his will forward. Which can start to bring a lot of questions in that list of God being sovereign. I understand that I'm not in control. I understand that I don't have a lot of power. I am small and insignificant in a lot of ways, and it's amazing that God invites me into his will. But the bad things happen, and it's so easy to go to God, if you're these things, why am I not seeing the victory side? Why did this happen to that person? Why did this happen to me? Why are you permitting this if you are sovereign? And I wish, as we all do, we had the perfect answer to that. But I just have to cling to the fact that God does have the victory. And I bring that with, I've been reading this wonderful book series this summer. It's a great good versus evil. It's like the Harry Potter of this day and age. It is called The Keeper of the Lost Cities. And it's, thank you. If you haven't read it, you should. It's so here's one of the reasons why I also love middle schoolers and high schoolers. They have the best books. So this good versus evil series, what that means to me is every 10 pages, somebody's in danger or about to get in danger. Oh yeah, this is what I need to hear. This is what I need to see in my life. And so about a month ago, I finished book 7. let that set in. It's book 7. These are like 500-page books. It's been a commitment. And I have been at the library checking each of these books out, and I was like, sweet, like book 9 is the last one. I'm getting really close. I feel really good about that. So I go to the library, I hand them book 7, chat up the librarian, yeah. And I go over to the shelf, and I was like, okay, there's books 1 through 6, 7, that's the gap. I had that one. Good job, me. I returned it. All right, book 8, this weird book, 8.5, 9, and 10. Like, I pulled it out, and I looked at the copyright, and I was like, how early was this book? Like, has somebody just been holding on to it? And it was like a recent print, and I was like, I could feel it, like, this is interesting. A couple days later, I see some of my teenage friends, and I was like, listen, I saw at the library, there's a book 10. That's the end, right? They just laughed at me, like, no! There's gonna be 11, 12, maybe even 13. And I was like, no. You gotta be kidding me. The author has the audacity to keep this book series going. Like, I was ready for it to be the ending because every book has ended that the bad guys keep outsmarting the good guys. And I thought in book 9 it was gonna finish, book 10 is gonna finish. And instead, I'm going to have to wait for these books, even though I know the good guys are gonna win. It's a kid's series. The good guy always wins. And so this is the tension that I start to live in, that I have to wait, like the book's not even written yet. I have to wait. And if you're not a book reader, that's fine. Streaming service has done this again to us. It's like 2009 where you have to wait this week and you have to wait a whole nother week before the next episode comes out. Sometimes like, oh, we needed 2 weeks. No, you didn't. I need to know what happens now on my time. Shoot, that's the problem. Like, that's the problem we live in, is that we want to know what happens now. And when we look at the Bible, there's blank spots. And we look at the Bible and there's parts that are true and are full. And thankfully, God does actually give us that final good ending that we're craving for. I love that he gives us a teaser that when Jesus came the first time, he brought victory over death. And we know that at the end, God's going to bring victory over everything, over the sadness, over the illness, over the sorrow, and ultimately over evil. And I have to sit in that God will bring the victory. Because God is sovereign, and in his will, everything will come to pass in his greatness and glory and honor and victory and majesty. And so I hope you get to walk away with this idea that God is sovereign and I can trust in that. And as opposed to us going each day to God saying, here's what I think I can get done in my power and in my authority, we just start with a type of surrender that's like, God, I give you control over this day. And we enter in like with this hopeful, excited anticipation that like, God, I can't wait to see what you're going to get done in your power and in your glory. I can't wait to see what victory is going to be won today that I get to witness, God, because you are sovereign. And so I want to be like David. I want to be a servant. I want to choose humility because God is sovereign.